Hello, welcome. It's Hardlore time. How you doing, Bo?
So very good.
What a very special episode we have for the people today.
We really do.
The highly anticipated by the hosts of this program, long awaited by the fans of the program. We have AEW superstar, the god of the House of Black, MALAKAI BLACK. How you doing, brother?
Well, that's quite some intro, but I would say I'm the keeper of the House of Black.
You're the keeper.
Not the god. I think God is the house itself. I don't want to offend the house. So
Wow.
We're 10 seconds in. We got a
there we
got a
go.
clip.
You got corrected straight away.
Gorgeous. How we doing?
Good, man. It took us a second to get this one rocking and rolling. However, I watched a few of the ones that you guys did, and I kept going fuck, I got to plan it in. And then obviously this life that, me and obviously, Brody King live is a continuous rotating cycle of unanticipated malarkey, and a lot of things kind of came in back and forth. And obviously, before we started recording, I briefly touched on the new house and stuff like that. So on top of being someone that is 24/7 on a standby basis, married to a person that is on 24/7 standby basis, being in a position where, a new house is being constructed and moving is slowly happening. I think we missed one good opportunity, but I'm glad that we're able to do it today. So yeah, pretty cool.
Thank you so much for taking the time. It's good I met you briefly with Brody before we got food, and you introduced yourself as Naked Tom, because you had just gotten back into your room and we're getting ready. So it's good to
Sexy.
formally meet you a little bit, and we appreciate you taking your time.
Absolutely, not a problem.
Let's talk shop here, because this is a touring that's the touring and music are the heart of the show, but we're big wrestling guys as well. You're now the fourth AEW guy we've had on the show, the fourth hardcore adjacent AEW. You can make an incredible band out of AEW action figures now. So
that is very true.
It's a fact. True. I would like to know what came first for you, music or wrestling?
That's a really good question. I mean, the logical answer obviously would be music. The logical answer in terms of cognitive responding to it was music. I first saw wrestling. Now, mind you, I grew up in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and wrestling was a blimp, if not even less than a blimp, in the societal norms of life in Amsterdam. But I remember sitting with my dad on the couch, and we had New Japan on TV, which was quite of a blessing, because we had a channel called Eurosport. And for some people that might sound familiar, for some people not, but that was more typically, obviously, Eurosport being in Europe, broadcasted. And they would have the older WWF, but more predominantly, they had New Japan for a while. So I grew up watching New Japan. And sitting with my dad on the couch, interestingly enough, the first thing I did see was a WWF small little clip. My dad was flicking channels, and he flicked on it, and it was something with Yokozuna and the $1 Million Man, and it just grabbed my attention. But it was 3 seconds, because my dad is not a wrestling fan, so he just kind of my dad likes like football and tennis and stuff like that. But he's flicking through the channel, and he sees it, and he kind of I think he was kind of trying to figure out what it was. And then after he did, he just kind of kept flicking. But for me, those 3 seconds were wait, what's that? And then the New Japan came. But almost at the same time, my brother was friends with a guy named Bart, which was basically the local metalhead. And my brother was always someone who was very much into more 70s, 80s type music, but guitar music and stuff. And Bart was very much into Iron Maiden and Metallica and stuff. So he took home this little 8-track that they recorded from all the other albums. You know how it went, you put your microphone at and then you press play, you don't talk, because, you know what I mean? Yeah. So stuff like that. Yeah. And he brought that home, and I remember the first song that I ever heard was "Running Free" by Iron Maiden, and it was just something about it where it was like, you hear that you hear that drum, and it just kind of took me, and then a little guitar comes in, and it's just like it was just something so different for me. And then he always made it a point to tell me, "Hey, don't look at the album covers. Don't look at the album covers." So then, obviously, if you're a kid, what are you going to do? You're going to look at the album covers. So I remember seeing Killers, the album cover, and I see Eddie standing in with the knife and stuff like that, and the woman. So the aesthetic of that also really spoke to me, and it was just something different because it was very hush hush. Metalist for crazy people, and it's frowned upon. And I was always kind of like more into like I think the word extremities is kind of like a bit too hyperbole, but I was definitely always drawn into things that were not the typical 9-year-old way of thinking. I like the alternative things. I liked the extreme things. I like the different type of aesthetics. I like stuff that was non-mundane, and not that there was anything wrong with it. It just, I wasn't drawn to it.
You're kidding.
So,
you?
Don't give it away. So based on that, so the music and the wrestling kind of in a way came simultaneous, but the music inspired what the wrestling did, if that makes any sense. Whoa. So for me, they go hand in hand, because I think that's also like, look, you guys are musicians, but you have a keen interest in wrestling. I'm a wrestler. I have a keen interest in music. There's something very coinciding about the baseline of entertainment that thrives in music and art and professional wrestling. It kind of like, there's like this weird connection that we'll always have. And whether that is just the entrance music or the idea that we're touring, just like you guys are touring, we create things for an audience that we play to them, and the audience responds to it and connects to it. See, there's like so many little things about music and wrestling that kind of coincides. And I think that's why musicians are drawn to wrestling, and wrestlers are drawn to music, because I cannot do my road trips without my music. I cannot do my match fixations without music. And I think for you guys, wrestling would be, if I'm not mistaken, a great way for you guys to kind of like, okay, I got to not think about of music for a while. Let me zone out. Let me get some inspiration. Let me, because I think that aesthetics can also inspire notes, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I think if you see something and you're drawn to it from an art perspective, it gives you an idea. And the same thing it does with me. I see something or I hear something and it makes me go, wait a minute, I can use XYZ. And I think it's also one of the reasons why I'm always been a bit compulsive about like what I present to the world. And I'm hands-on to the point that I had to learn how to not be hands-on, because it's starting to piss people off. But I think all of us understand, respect, and appreciate the dedication that comes with both music and wrestling and any type of art for us to kind of like really sink our teeth in and having an audience digest it.
I mean, the way you just described discovering both things was the same experience for both of them. Mm-hmm. You saw and heard this larger than life thing.
Yes.
These things you don't see every day. And you're like, oh, I have no choice but to follow this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we talk about all the time that there's so many parallels between extreme music is to the rest of music what wrestling is to the rest of sports.
Yeah, we just said that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it's a real thing.
I think it's a great way of looking at it. I agree.
It's very
like
much
we pull theatricality from wrestling and put that into our performances and shit, because live performances, the music is secondary now. All the Grammy nominees yesterday. Who I haven't heard a single one of those records, but I know they got confetti guns.
Yeah,
they got all the gimmicks.
I don't want to like jump around too much, I guess, but since you're getting into wrestling and at this time and in your life, and we were talking, you were saying that you are very hands-on. That's something that to me, even as like an outsider, even before I knew Brody, and when I knew you from before House of Black stuff, it was like, this seems like a guy who really cares about like creative control and like everything that he's doing and being hands-on. And there is a certain parallel with that with music as well, where there are bands who, like Colin, you're a great example of that.
I'm a sick fuck with that.
Yeah, yeah. They had a camo designed just for God's sake. So
I have that, by the way. I have that.
So where did that come organically from you, that obsession? Or was that something that was like, oh, I think it'll just work better this way, and you just tried it?
No. So this is a bit of a complex answer, and I have to think about formulating it. So the way that I grew up, everything for me made sense once I figured it out. And now you say, yeah, that's obvious. But a lot of people will do things and never ask themselves why they're doing it. Why am I working this way? Why am I saying these things? Why am I feeling this way when I say these things? My background is a lot of martial arts. I come from Muay Thai and kickboxing and stuff like that. And obviously you see that back in my style. But in order for me to get where I needed to be, I needed to figure out why. Why do I want this style? Why did I do martial arts? Why does it work this way? I have to literally unwrap every little fiber of what I do, write it down so I can rebuild it. If you look at my style, for instance, I'm going to take one thing. If I just a rear body back kick, right? Just a regular kick to the chest. That's like it would be named in pro wrestling. There is a significant difference in me doing it versus any other striker. And the reason is, and the difference is this: I can kick you aesthetically so incredibly hard, or make it at least appear to look like I'm beating the everlasting shit out of you, but I'm not touching you. It's because I have broken down every part and ounce of that technique and rebuild it in a way that it makes sense for my body to move this way. Because what it is that I do is I present violence to an audience. I present a violent style that needs to look realistic, but I have to do it in a way that I do not completely demolish my opponent, because at the end of the day, pro wrestling is what pro wrestling is. That doesn't mean that I come in like a feather, but I have so much control over my body from years and years of doing martial arts and years of wrestling, years of training and deconstructing my training while being hands-on, so that I completely understand what it is that I'm presenting inside the ring within the physicality that I bring. And a lot of strikers that I wrestle or that I've seen, their kicks look great, but it's also because they're really, really laying it in so goddamn thick. And I can see guys coming back with like, oh yeah, those were rough. Whereas with me, the majority of the response is like, how the fuck do you do that? Like, you kicked me square in the head and I didn't feel a thing, and like, doesn't mean that it's never happened that because like I'd say out of 100 strikes, maybe 1 or 2 will land, because it's still like, you work in a realm where unexpected things happen. But to circle back around to, what your original question is because I've had success with deconstructing and being hands-on, that it's very difficult for me to let the rope go, especially when I inside, like, for my every being know what I have to say, do, or think, or present to the world for it to make sense. And that has more oftentimes not than is been presented. So a lot of things that may appear from like a rate of like succession, without sounding super arrogant, could have been grandeur, could have been more polished, could have been, you know what I mean? Sure. Because I also work in a situation with people where I work for someone, and that person, with every right of their being, has a say and has to say, Tom, I want it this way. Okay, you're the boss. Yeah. You know what I mean? Sure. Doesn't mean that I'm always right. Doesn't mean that I'm always right. However,
you're always going to care.
Yeah. What's that?
You're always going to care in a way that
because I care what the audience consumes when seeing me, and I know how to present myself, and I know how to present others. Brody being a big example of that, because I have fought tooth and nail to keep him as non-damaged in appearance as possible, because he's a psychopathic-looking human being that is capable of having a heart of gold, but certainly capable of being an incredibly violent, nasty bastard. And I needed to like pull that out of him in a way that it bordered people going, man, this dude, I don't know what it is with this dude, but everything he does is legit. And that's, of course, his style, his talent.
It is real. That's the thing. Yes, that's the thing, is we can tell you on record it's real.
Yes, 100%. Nothing what Brody does is fake. And I wanted that to be presented to the world. So certain things he would come to me and say, hey, what do you think if I, do this and this or this and this person? I said like, well, it would present X, Y, Z. And in the beginning, I think him and me had a little bit more back and forth on it. But I think as time progressed, he not only found his own way with how I wanted him to be presented and now knows how to carry it on. I feel like once it started really paying off, he started going, okay, no, I see what you're doing. And because he's so talented, he caught on to it. And he realized that instead of like a guy his size hitting someone 4 or 5 times, you can give him one good elbow and just tell the guy, hey, stay down. Yeah, because it would have more impact than him hitting like a guy his size hitting someone half the size 4 or 5 times. You know what I mean? And it's all these kind of like little details.
Nuance.
It's that because you want to keep people protected. You want to keep people nuanced, like you said. You want to keep people special. And that's what I've always wanted with Nate is for people to look at him as special because I've always been presented as special too. And I know how that deconstruction and construction on both ends work.
Sure.
So, he brought the talent, he brought all the potential in the world that I already saw when he first started, and he needed a few tweaks, and now he is what he is, and I think he's doing an absolutely phenomenal job, and I couldn't have a better tag partner.
Yeah.
We're there already. I think we were going to do this chronologically, but it was pretty incredible to watch in real time within the table group chat.
Mm-hmm.
The Kings of the Black Throne / House of Black kind of come together in real time.
Yeah. It was a fun process, frustrating, but it was also a lot of fun. I just, I like what it is that we do because it's so different and it covers a layer of society that a lot of people, perhaps not actively think about, but it is something that I absolutely think is worth presenting, kind of looking at the deeper underbelly of like humanity and kind of going like, well, human beings are horrible and you can disagree, but we at least embrace it. Now you need to embrace it. And if you like us, you root for us, then you also understand that you're a rotten piece of shit and that you're violent, you're violent by design. And that's okay because you can't fight your nature, And I think Brody fits that so perfectly. Buddy fits that perfectly. Julia, especially because she's so different from what she first was to, where she's transformed in, it makes in the most unexpected ways. And because it's so unexpected, it makes the most sense. People like that arc because it's the last thing that they would have expected. So it's one of the coolest things, especially the success rate of it from that perspective.
I mean, and then the first thing you thought of when putting this together was like, okay, I can get my friends jobs now, which is pretty like not just Nate, but like you guys had me write your song, and now I got 6 in the tank, and that's just because you guys brought me in.
Yes, I was about to say, and that's obviously that's a big coercion as well, obviously on the part of on Nate and stuff as well. Like I can't take full credit on that because that was a collective, but we were just kind of like, and I remember in like Nate's words, like Nate's going, I think we should keep it in the family, and I was like, I 100% agree. I think that's what we should do, and I think it's such an organic. Cooperation between you and us that we've created you created it. I just kind of said, hey, let's do this. And you created it.
You guided me.
But it was funny because I think the last theme song that you did, the House of Black one, there's this massive Easter egg, and you already know exactly what I'm talking about.
I do.
That I felt that was such and when I told you that, I was driving in the middle of the night listening and going like, what can we put in there? I was literally I got in my car and it was like 12:30 in the morning. And I was just driving around and going, fuck, what can we put in there? And then all of a sudden I go, wait, that would make so much sense given the nature of my character and given the nature of what it is that we do. And basically I asked Colin, I said, dude, can you add like a real life exorcism in the beginning of that song? And he's like, say no more.
I think that was verbatim my response.
Yeah, 100%. And he actually, so the beginning of that song is actual audio of an actual exorcism playing through the entire arena. And I think it gives such a layer of this, like, it's just terrifying. And obviously now when this comes out, people are going to go, wait, what? Yeah. now they're going to listen
dude,
to
the
it.
Tens of thousands of people we've subjected to like
an
exorcism audio. They're going to be so pissed.
Yeah, like actual demonic sounding voices. And I think there's a right in it. It's a right, isn't it?
Yeah, it's it was, I forget the source of the audio where I found it. It was somebody speaking like perfect Latin.
Yeah.
Who did not speak Latin.
And yes,
yeah,
awesome. It was terrifying.
It's very
it's really, really scary. But I just felt that
you were like, I just had to pull over and turn it off. It's too scary. I'll listen to it tomorrow.
I did. I'm driving in the car again because he sends it to me. And again, like I'm a big midnight guy, to the surprise of no one. So again, I start driving around. He sends it to me, and he I click it on. I just hear that, but it's like, oh God, this is fucking terrifying. So I'm like, I have to switch it off because it was really fucking scary. So that's kind of how that came to be. But again, to come back to the original thing, I think. Sorry, that's my phone.
No problem.
I think for something that we need people to understand that side of life, that side of like humanity, and like that again, that nitty gritty underbelly where a lot of you guys' music is coming from like at the deepest, darkest crevices of your heart, your mind, and your soul. That's where it comes from, and that's why we have that connection again, to circle back to music, and that's why we need musicians like you guys to do it. Because you translate what we feel, because we feel what you feel. And I think that's what makes it so unique. Not to mention, Colin, that you and your brother are in literally every hardcore band in the world I've recently figured out. There's literally not one band that I've listened to where you did somehow had your little fingers involved in it. I was listening to...
I was going to say Harm's Way, but then I remembered.
There's one. Yeah.
There's some fingers. I've fingered Harm's Way briefly.
Exactly. There's like, it's almost like you can't help yourself. Like I was listening to God, what was I listening to? I want to say was it Momentum? Maybe.
No. I mean, my brother recorded that, so that makes sense.
Then it might have been. And I'm listening to it, and I like every once in a while I'll throw some stuff up on Instagram or like what I'm currently listening. Mm-hmm. And then Brody King texts me. He's like, "Yeah, that band is so fucking dope." And I was like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "Did you know?" And he just starts telling me that either your brother was involved. And I was like, "Yeah, like that makes sense because he's in every fucking hardcore band in the world." I'm pretty sure that like if I talk to the guys from Knock Loose, I go, at one point we talked to Colin, and I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I think somehow you're involved with literally every band in the world. I'm convinced that's the conspiracy.
That's the goal. I'm like a fungus. I'm trying to spread.
I have a question about, and we could get back into music because I want to know how you got into hardcore. But real quick, while we're still kind of talking about what you're currently doing. You've always had cool entrances, which I think is like really important.
Yes. For
any wrestler, especially a wrestler of like dark sided things.
Agreed.
When I was at one of the earlier times where like you had, it was the Amon Ra song.
Yes. Is that who it was? I still have that. Yeah. My singles entrance is is Amon Ra. Yeah.
Lights go off and then you kind of transport to the ring when like I'm sure that has been done before in some fast or whatever. I don't know every entrance ever. Was that you?
Yes.
You knew you wanted to do that?
Yeah. So the idea behind the entrance is a cycle. It's the sun uprise. It's from dusk till dawn, basically. So the idea is that when you first see me, the sun rises up behind me, and then as I'm progressing, it cuts back, and then I'm on the turnbuckle. So then the sun is at the hot. Sorry, like I'm drinking Monster. So I'm sitting on turnbuckle, so the sun is at its highest peak, and then when I sit in the ring, there's moonlight. So it's like a cycle of time, because the idea behind it is that everything is always a full circle. Everything comes to an end. So as well as that, my entrance starts and finishes. My match will start and finish. The day will finish. It's a little bit of a nod to just like life, but I like the idea of it being a cycle. to give it some meaning. But that was the idea behind the entrance. And every time we've used red, and I know that we've used red a lot lately, but the initial part of using the red was to signal change within me, within my moveset, within like the realms, because like red, is the color of blood, DNA, growth, like new life, etc. Everything comes from, from blood is the life, to quote Dracula. So there's a few things here and there, and there's more that like I just feel for myself are important to like present to an audience, and not always necessarily having to explain them, but making people go, wow, that's different. Wow, that's unique. Oh, and there's also a large portion of people that go like, I don't fuck with it. I'm like, that's fine. You don't have to. You get it. You get it. You don't. That's fine.
This is another one of those things where it's like Colin, I'm sure you've opened up I think it's Slow Deep and Hard, where it's like Peter, axes, iron, like all like the shit, druid, whatever all the shit is, and you just like, you're like learning. It's like the same kind of thing where it's like,
it's all lore, baby.
It's all lore. And that's exactly why this works. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's a video by a gentleman. Oh God, what's his name? I actually started following him on Twitter when he made the video, and I've talked about this video quite a few times because I was so impressed by it. He made this 20-minute video on the lore of Aleister / MALAKAI Black, and for about 80-85%, he was able to decipher everything that I did.
Wow.
And also, my social media, how I tied in, and all of a sudden, I posted some stuff that had a reference to Odin to kind of talk about the eye, but I wouldn't post Odin, but it was more something that had to do with, and he was able to bridge that. And I was like,
cracked the code.
I'm like, damn, dude, that's like, and I thought I was like hiding some stuff pretty goddamn well. And he was just like, and I messaged him because the thing is like, that's all I've ever wanted. It's like, I want to give you something that you can later on, decipher, and later on you can, even the way that we brought Brody in, I had this idea of tying Jupiter into Brody's appearance, because the back when they were still gods and stuff, Jupiter and Saturn basically represented that you will suffer eternally until you learn. So learning is suffering. And that was in the month of January at that exact time. So it was the perfect month for a guy like Brody King, who embodies like, violence and stuff like that. And to have, representation for those gods being, learning through violence and suffering, and having him come out, it was like the perfect blend of chaos. And it happened on the exact day. And I was just like, it played out exactly how I wanted to play out.
Literally aligned.
Yes, awesome. literally. Yeah, and stuff like that is just like, for me, is just very, very cool to be able to tie in like a lot of like European folklore and ancient rites, ancient burial rites and stuff like that, and just stuff that happened in and around like the lowlands of like, thousands of years ago in my own country and stuff. And where we're all descended from, in of course, to me as a European and stuff, to kind of bring that with me and present that to the world. Same with the masks and stuff. It's just very cool to kind of have that and like play it out, and people not realizing how much goes behind it, and then hopefully not 10, 15 years later going like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Let me look at that entrance again. Wait, what did he do? what did his hands do? Why was his lens red on this time? Hey, he did the mist. Wait, why was the eye red initially when he did the mist? What was that about? You know what I mean? So stuff like that, and like tying months and weeks and like all sorts of like astrology stuff to it. And like I said, lore, rituals, rites.
Nothing is an accident with the things you're doing.
No. And there's just stuff where I'm like, yeah, no, that's just cool.
Yeah, right. Of course.
Sometimes it's just cool, like the stuff that we're doing right now. That's like going on in the chat that I can't talk about too much.
Sure.
Something that me and Brody were cooking up, which is going to be very, very cool. And you'll see it, but it's very, very cool and has a lot of like different meanings. And we've done it in a way, but now it's so amplified. It sounds kind of like, what the F is he talking about? That's the exact. But you'll see it. Like once you see it, you know exactly. I think that's what he's talking about. But
All
you
right.
know, and we just kind of keep fabricating little layers. And you know, I try to keep notes because eventually my idea is also to bring out this book that I call the Black Book, where all the notes are in and all like the ideas are in, and just kind of like put some poetry in there, put some artwork in there, and just bring out something that's just different. You know, like I want wrestling to transcend and just being, I jump in the ring, I beat some dudes up. And, you know, it kind of gives my mind something to do as well, my heart as well, which is good.
I mean, with the wrestling, much like music, again, as we're going to keep comparing it, the things that work the best are the things that remember that there are really no rules creatively with what you can do.
There are not.
The more interesting, the more uniquely you present an idea, the better it's going to work. It might take a second to get over. Same with music. You talked about bringing like Dutch folklore into the character, into wrestling in general. I'm sure very young, getting over in America, that was the goal too, which eventually you got to be the first Dutch world champion.
Yes, correct.
I have to imagine that was pretty special.
Yes. So there's been, how do I word this? Special. Yes, very much so. But the thing for me as well is I'm a very much like, okay, now that you're standing in it, don't let it consume you kind of person. Because in the long run, it doesn't matter anything. Right now, make the best of what you have. Yes, you have this, but don't let it control. Don't let this be the, well, I've done that, so guys, I'm good. You know, kind of thing. And I feel that's something that as like wrestlers or artists or athletes, I feel that can be a death trap.
Sure.
So yes, it was very special. I absolutely adore my days in NXT. I will hold them dearly for, you know, the rest of my life. But it definitely did come with some complications because the WWE, especially at that point, I want to argue without trying to sound like an arrogant asshole that period of NXT, the 2017 to 2020 was the best NXT has ever been. I feel like we had the wrestling world on fire. I feel that we had the wrestling world. We were the blueprint for how it should have been done for a long time. And I think we made a lot of people better. And I think we made a lot of people go, I want to go there. I want to be in that group of guys. And the reason why that group of guys was special is because we were all competing with each other, but we all loved each other. We all had respect. Anyone from like, you know, my wife, you know, who was part of like, you know, the whole thing with Andrade and Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, Roderick Strong, Tommaso, Johnny, and, you know, you have to say it, Velveteen at the time, of course, well, you know, they were all like integrated into Viking Raiders, Ricochet, Matt Riddle, you know, like it was this group of guys that for years was on the indies and just grinding away to then all be scooped up and put in front of guys like Terry Taylor, Robbie Brookside, Norman Smiley, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Matt Bloom, and just having their minds like fucking, you know, molded into like, this is what we want you guys to do. Now, I will also say one of the biggest changes came when they did Tyler Bate versus Pete Dunne, which is, in my opinion, still one of the best matches that NXT's ever hosted. Those two had phenomenal match. I think both of them are extremely talented guys. I'm glad that they're still so young and they can still go so long. But I remember they had that match, and I remember very vividly Shawn Michaels going, okay, what are we teaching people? Are we teaching people what we're doing, or are we doing that? Because I want to do that. And that is kind of how a lot of it kind of like, because we were pushing that narrative for a while, where we just kind of went like, no, let us do what we do. And slowly but surely, they kind of let the ropes go. Now, and I will have to say one thing, you know, I'm making it sound like, you know, it was just us. No, because we needed the revivals. We needed the Wesley Blakes and the Buddy Matthews and the Finn Balor's and the Baron Corbins to kind of set all of that up so that we, you know, organically, say Shinsuke, you know, we could inherit what they gave us and then, you know, take it to the next level. I will never not give those guys their props because those dudes worked their asses off, because I feel that they changed the level too. And like, I feel like
those are all the marquee names now.
Yes.
Amongst all companies.
Exactly. And it was just like us they're basically going like, we're going to give you this, take care of it. And initially it was, of course, like a little bit of a drop because, you know, a lot of the loved names would go up to the main roster. And like here you have guys like myself and Johnny and Tommaso, and not so much Johnny and Tommaso because they were already on NXT for like a year at that point, but like Damian Mackel, Sanity, you know, like Alexander Wolf, Eric Young, and not Eric Young, but the rest of us were relatively unknown for a larger audience. Yes, we were known on the independent scene, especially in Europe and stuff, but no one knew who we like were to a more American audience. Now the NXT audience was obviously a lot more into like wrestling. You know, they would look at the independent, so it was a little easier. But again, I just feel that like, you know, those years, especially like the 2018, like start of 2018, I feel like we really did something special. And for 2-3 years, we had pay-per-views that created some of the best moments, best storylines. And it was just like, there's actually one guy that I have to give props, and me and my wife were talking about this yesterday, Joe Belcastro, the writer for NXT. I think for a lot of people, a relatively unknown name because he wasn't a wrestler, but he was the writer, the head writer of NXT. And him and Hunter and Sean and Matt and Terry, they created so many incredible storylines. And, you know, it was all them. And Joe, in my book, was one of the best story writers. He actually has a book out now, and the book is really good.
Is he still with WWE?
No, he's been long gone from WWE. But he was an important part of why NXT was a success. And you know, also the writing team that we had, like that whole era of NXT was just the perfect storm. It was just a perfect storm of like the right guys being in the right spot, doing the right things, having the right people to lead them. And the fan base was incredible. You know what I mean? To circle back this very long conversation to your original thing, yes, it was very special, but it wasn't just special because it was me. It was special because it was everyone else that held the belt before me and allowed me to create a platform where I could ultimately, you know, gave the belt. I never really felt good about my title run because I felt that it was a little premature. But when I lost the belt to Tommaso, funny enough, that's the moment where I got super comfortable and I was like, all right, yes, let's fucking go, right?
Absolutely.
I was already comfortable in the point of like having comfortability in my ability because like the night I wrestled Velveteen, I basically said to Hunter, I said, just let me do it. Let me do it my way. If you hate it, here's the ropes back. You can do it and I'll do whatever you want, but please, I know that I can, because I wasn't really happy with my debut. I wasn't really happy with my match against Hideo. And it was me, not them. It was me.
Sure.
I wasn't happy with myself. I think they're, you know, Kenta, come on. You know what I mean? Like it was me predominantly. And I knew what is that I was trying to cater too much what I think they wanted me to do. And they kept going like, no, we don't want that. We want you to do you, but then would still try to like micromanage things that I was doing. So I just basically said, Hunter, please just let me do me. I will, you know, and you know, the match with Velveteen is obviously what it was. And it was a great payoff match. And after I came back, Hunter was like, okay, you're good. You do what you want to do. I fully understand it now. And, you know, it takes time to kind of build up that relationship with people. And when they gave me the title, I kind of felt like, oh, I feel this is a little too soon. You know what I mean? But rating wise, it wasn't. Merch wise, it wasn't. But I just felt personally, I was like, I wish they would have. So Tommaso took the belt, and I was actually supposed to win it back in that three-way that was supposed to happen between myself, Johnny, and Tommaso.
Right.
I got injured. And obviously we ran with the Johnny who done it storyline, which I still love. I love wrestling Johnny so much that he's such an incredibly talented individual. I think one of my absolute favorite matches was that War Games pay-per-view where I wrestled him. And then I had my match with Tommaso, which was back for the belt in January. I think it was NXT Phoenix 2020, I want to say, 2019. No, 2020. I think it was 2020. It's about 2 months before I moved up to the main roster. And I'm really proud of that match in particular because it was one of the matches where I think it was like 35 minutes, but it was me selling my leg, and everything I did had had an impact on my leg. And I was just really proud of the build towards like selling that particular leg, having to find creative ways to like do things while still selling, presenting that my leg was incapacitated. And there's just a lot of things about that NXT era where I feel like I really owned my skills. I really felt like, no, I'm on the money. And that's kind of, propelled me to, where I am now, but I couldn't have done it without all the other guys.
Absolutely. Do you have a big four
Dude,
of
I was going to
guys
say the exact same thing.
Guys that are still there that you need to wrestle one more time?
That are still there?
That are still WWE NXT adjacent. Where you're like, no matter fucking what, I'm wrestling this guy one more time.
One more time or just in general?
In general.
Okay. So number one, Roman, 100%. I don't care what people think. I think he's, and I think that actually, the thing is, like, I say that, but I think everybody agrees. Like, Roman's the man.
Yeah.
And not just from a company point of view or like carrying the heavyweight belt, just as a performer, that he just knows it. He just, he's crazy good. And Seth is another one. I always hate that my matches with Seth, apart from one, were in the PC era, and him and me always talked about, man, if we were just have a bigger platform, a Mania match, a pay-per-view match in front of an audience, we tear it up, because I absolutely adore Seth Rollins. And I think that he is, people don't appreciate how well and good and how nuanced he is. I have learned so much from like talking to Seth Rollins and like wrestling him, and he would like give me so much advice and how to present character stuff and like these little nitty details that he does. Just incredible stuff. He's one of them. Obviously Johnny and Tommaso, of course, that's just, I mean, I don't really know if I have a big four. I have a big whole bag of people that I want to wrestle. But if
that was a very big four.
I'll give you one more person, and this is not something that would ever happen in WWE unless that part changes. But Asuka,
man,
wow,
yep,
what an answer!
And we've spoken about it too.
Wow,
we've had that conversation. And she would
love
you two
just kicking the shit out of each other.
Oh yeah, she's great.
Where do I pay? I'll tell you right now.
Where do I put? She would give me the fight of my life, I think.
Wow, that's so cool.
She is unmatched, unrivaled. Yeah, you heard that response at Rumble, right?
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
She is every bit as good as people think she is. She is every bit as deserving as people think she is. She is phenomenal. And also, last one, and this might sound funny, I want to compete against my wife.
That's awesome.
For two reasons. Number one, because she's my wife.
Yeah.
Number two, my wife, in my opinion, other than having a few matches with us, and I don't want to sound biased because we're married, but I know who she was before she came to WWE.
Sure.
My wife, in my opinion, has not had the role to really prove herself. And, she's been injected in a match here and a match there. She had those two good matches with Asuka that people, unfortunately, because it was in the pandemic era, don't really talk about anymore. But there's a certain comfortability that people get when they watch and wrestle several times a week. Same way as if you play 6 shows a week, you get really into the groove of things. You can fuck around on stage and you're feeling it. But if you do 1 show a month, you're like, oh fuck, I hope I don't, you know what I mean? And the same goes for wrestling. So my wife being interjected in and out of matches, which is, that's just the nature of the business. That happens. I feel like Rumble was a good little thing, and then the match that she had on TV a couple days ago, was also give her more of that. I guarantee you that in the span of 6 months, you're gonna get a completely different woman that does things that you've never seen a woman do, especially her size, because she's trained.
She's in crazy shape.
Oh yeah, we're on the hammer at the moment.
Wow.
I think people don't realize that she was trained by Amazing Red. That's her cousin. They train, and she can do everything that Red does. She just never really has a platform to show it.
And he was one of the guys that defined this whole era.
Red doesn't get enough props.
Agreed.
Like, and same with Loki, you know, those dudes, like they created that, like, let's say that video game style of like professional wrestling where all of a sudden the boundaries just kind of went out the door. Same with Kenta. Kenta was one of those guys that he was a kickboxer and like did Muay Thai. And I remember in 2005, when I first saw him, it made me go, oh, so I can do that too with my style. And that's how I started thinking about, like, you know, incorporating like leg catches and like, you know, like riposte with teeps and arm catches. And like, I started going like really back into like my kickboxing and my Muay Thai and going, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. And that's kind of how that style for me progressed as well. And that's how I come up with still different things, because I translated. But I digress. My wife.
I love that answer. And with what you said in mind, with like keeping your chops up, wanting to wrestle 3, 5, 6 times a week, does that excite you for AEW moving into house shows?
Yes, because it was at my request.
For the better of the roster.
Oh, really?
It was at my request. And before people take a run with this, it was at my request that we're doing live events. And initially he was like, maybe, and I kept hammering out on it, and others started chiming into him and like, we need to do live events. And eventually he told me about, was it 4 or 5 months ago when I sat down with him, he basically said like, we're going to start doing live events in 2023. And I was like, put me on him, because
huge.
I love, there's nothing more fun than live events, because you can interact with the crowd. And I think that a lot of young guys that are coming through now, they need to learn how to work for cameras and like learn how to get comfortable in front of an audience in a way that they don't forget about, like, hey, take a breather, give people the opportunity to process what it is that you just did. And that doesn't mean stand still, do nothing, but you know what I mean? It's all these like little things that I think that a lot of the younger kids in that locker room are now going to be able to get, you know, pick up and get better, because that's the only way you're going to get better. Same with music. The only way you get better is by doing it. And that's same as with wrestling.
I was just going to say something that we'll do a lot is like when you're on your way to join up with a bigger tour, you'll do some routing shows, and it's just kind of getting the reps in.
Break you in. Yeah.
Interesting.
Do it.
Absolutely.
Interesting. I never knew that, but it makes total sense to me.
It's the same principle. I've said this before in the show, but I just, for conversation's sake, I was into wrestling during like the Attitude Era. That was like when I grew up watching it and being there. Kind of fell out of it during the like the Ruthless Aggression Era, I suppose is when that all started. And I really didn't get back into it until COVID, because I had a ton of time. I wasn't touring, maybe even a little bit before that, mostly because of Brody, honestly, just because it was like, oh, my friend is doing this crazy shit. I became aware of you because Code Orange and our friend Brendan played you out with this cool entrance. So what I wanted to know, and immediately that was like barrier breaking for my brain, because I had no idea outside of Brody that anyone was into like actual hardcore. And who would reach out to Code Orange and Brendan, like Incendiary, and you know, have them play them out.
I mean, for the longest time, the only representation of like hardcore we had on screen at WWE was like Punk, and then if Mosh and Thrasher were wearing a fucking
typo shirt,
Anthrax or typo shirt, you know? And now we got Big Tom, baby.
There we go. So the connection between myself and Code Orange was a WWE setup. So the guys from Code Orange are actually big wrestling fans, and they used to come and watch me at Evolve, and I had no idea. And then we did Download, and they asked me, hey, do you want to introduce Code Orange? They were still playing like the smaller stage. It's crazy, right? Then you think about that, because now they're like Grammy playing, like having, you know, big time, massive artists that collaborate with so many like, you know, big artists and stuff. And, but at the time they were playing one of the smaller, not the smallest, but one of the smaller venues at Download. But they, you know, they just had that connection with WB. So I met the guys backstage. I had a great conversation. I absolutely love all of them. They are awesome humans. And
friends of the show.
Dude, they're, you know, I have a lot of love for those kids. They are absolutely great. Introduced them. It was a cool little, you know, connection. And then a couple months later, the pay-per-view came, And Hunter was like, what do you think about being played out to the crowd? I'm like, what do you mean? Well, we got Code Orange, we got we got Brandon from Incendiary who does your track anyway. Would you like would you like to have them perform your song live? I'm like, that'd be insane. He's like, yeah, the last person to ever be played out at the time. I think he said was him. I'm not sure if that's was it Hunter that had the performance by Motorhead, or was it
the Motorhead entrance?
It was, right. That was the last time. It was So. Maybe. But a metal band, because I'm assuming that they have Flo Rida at some point play.
One rapper's, I mean, that's way cheaper to do.
Yeah. So he was like, we want to do that, and that's kind of, it was just a very cool little absolutely. It was so cool. It was such a. I'm really thankful for WWE giving me so many of these unique moments and unique presentation, and allowing me to just do all this stuff. And on the subject of hardcore and just basically, let's call it just alternative music.
Yeah.
Because I would never consider myself to be a strictly hardcore kid or anything like that. I don't think anyone would assume that I am. But for me, I felt that when I came to the WWE, they didn't really have anyone that really was involved in the scene like the way I was involved in the scene, because I was still going to small venues and seeing local bands and fucking shit up with my friends, sitting in vans and helping them set up, and then completely wreck the goddamn stage of every little small part that they were playing in, you know what I mean? And we hung out the Dutch hardcore scene isn't a very big one, but I mean, I think the OGs No Turning Back and stuff like that, they were around. They've been around for 25 years. They
Forever.
Used to.
Yeah.
It's funny because in that same era that I was getting heavily involved with the hardcore scene, Terror kept touring in Europe, to the point where the joke was that Terror was now a European band because they were playing more in Europe.
They're Netherlands straight edge.
They were just they were playing predominantly the Netherlands for a very, very long time. And obviously No Turning Back was always in the on the cards with them as well. It was just, for me, hardcore is a very magical brotherhood that transcends all over the world. It's a collective group of kids that basically said, we see your level of success, we don't like it, and we're going to do it our way. Mm-hmm. And it's and we're going to do it very loud. And we're going to support each other while doing it, and we're going to bring you some of the most violent shit you've ever seen. But it's meant to be positive, because we want you to do better. We want you to have better. But you're going to have to claw for it, and you have to understand that you have to claw for it. And this is about life. This is about unity. This is about being a family, and this is about persevering. And that for me was always I love that about hardcore, and that that unity, and that that brotherhood feeling. Didn't matter if I was in Germany and there was a local show, and I would step in, and I would wear a cruel hand t-shirt, and people were like, oh shit. And what I mean? And it was good immediately, because everybody understood it. And then, everybody just wrecking the places down. And then we jump in the van, and then we drive to the next town. And, I would wrestle that next night, and then we go to Germany, and would come right back and go back to Rotterdam and jump into the van with the guys again. And it was just a blast of a time, man. And at the same time, growing up, I got heavily inspired by bands like Mayhem and Immortal, Cradle of Filth, Cannibal Corpse, and much more blackened metal and death metal and black metal. Melodic death metal, and especially the aesthetics of it, and the lore behind it, and some of the crazy stories that would come out, and especially with a band like Cradle of Filth. And funny enough, my clothing company actually did 2 collaborations with Cradle of Filth a while ago, and to me that was mind blowing, because there's an interview that I did many moons ago where I cite Danny Filth's saying a piece in an interview that really inspired me to think outside the box. And his thing was like, well, the reason why we are so theatrical is that when I grew up, I loved like Alice Cooper and Iron Maiden. They had the big puppets on stage and it was like super theatric. And he's like, none of the younger bands do that anymore. So that's why I wanted to do it. And I wanted to take it up a notch because I love all that stuff. And like, it really made me think. And I'm like, man, he's right. You know, how can I do that? And that's kind of slowly how the presentation came. And then, you know, stuff from my childhood with my dad. And I've never really touched on this too much. And I also don't want to because, you know, I love my old man and he's worlds away from who he once was. And he's a great human being, but you know, back then he was a very different guy. And like the background he came out of was that the people that he was involved with were like this super religious, heavy, almost cult-like group of people that really messed with his brains. And I drew a lot of inspiration from that as well, because I started researching these people. And I was like, you know, like, and then you go from cults to occults, and then you go to like Christianity and like all these things that you kind of like can draw inspiration from. And I got so obsessed with like world religion, and then combining, the black metal aesthetics and some of the lyrics with, you know, your childhood interests and stuff that you've seen and went through, and then grabbing like, you know, your broken teeny angsty heart and put the big patch of hardcore on top of it. And that's kind of how you kind of, you know, punch your way through life, and training wrestling and Muay Thai and stuff like that, just to kind of keep your head above water. It's like that entire combination of like that ball of like raw emotion of anger, sadness, happiness, and all that, like, man, just being a lost kid, making yourself like what you are now. And it was like there's moments been in my life where I've been like, that was a close call. I shouldn't have done X. I shouldn't have done A. I shouldn't have done C, whatever. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't change a damn thing looking back now, because every little thing that I have done in my life has led me to a path that I absolutely love, no matter how difficult it gets sometimes, no matter how painful it is sometimes, no matter how much regret is involved. It had to happen for that reason, or else I would not be who I am now. And I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change anything, simply because it allowed me to do what I did.
That's amazing. Beautiful. And like the way you described fighting together, clawing together, it's a brotherhood.
Yeah.
It's very similar to wrestling in that, like, one example I could think of is I remember when Knocked Loose did a headliner in, I think, like 2019, and Terror was direct support, and Terror put Knocked Loose over. You know what I mean? Like,
I remember that too.
Yeah.
I remember exactly what you're talking about, because I remember seeing the video of it.
And and you can ask, and I did talk to Terror after a few people from Terror after that tour. It was like, it was one of the best tours we've ever done. Mm-hmm. It introduced
That's
us
how you
to
stay Terror.
Exactly. Exactly.
You read the time, you read the room, and you go, yeah, it's this guy's time.
Yeah.
But that'll keep us near the top.
Forever, yeah.
You know?
And not just that, but like authentically going, like, you know, we have our foundation in hardcore. Mm-hmm. No one will ever take that away from us. We are what we are because we did what we did. Here's these kids, and they're about to do their thing, because you can argue about it all. I think Knocked Loose is fucking fantastic. I think those kids do something so special, so unique, such a great mindset, such a great sound, just so. And I was thinking about that yesterday. And funny enough, like Harm's Way came in my head as well, because I'm listing all these bands that have this like really like almost like black and hardcore type feeling. And I will say this, I feel like Brutality Will Prevail in my book are the first ones to really went that low with their guitars and had that like blackened feeling to their.
You love Brutality Will Prevail,
dude. I love those boys. There's a whole story between me and those boys, but it's because I love them so much. So them, Desolated, Knocked Loose, Code Orange, Harm's Way. Cruel Hand was more thrashy type in my book. And you can tell me I'm wrong because you guys are musicians. I'm just saying it how I'm feeling it and how I'm seeing it. But I feel that there was just something so incredibly heavy about those guitars and just these like low riffs that just make me want to fight people. It was just like, man, what is this? And like I said, like I remember hearing Sleep Paralysis by Brutality Will Prevail, and I just go, yo, these dudes are so slow. It's just fighting. It's just fucking fighting. And I just went like, oh, this is exactly what I need. And
we toured with them, and I believe we played Dynamo in Eindhoven, I think.
Oh, there we go. That's a throwback. Dynamo.
But like the small venue, the venue, not the fest.
Not the fest.
Yeah, no, it's, I don't think it's.
There were not 80,000 people there.
Yo, I guess somebody at the venue is like mad at Twitching Tongues for like leaving a banana peel behind or something.
You son of a bitch.
I'm sorry about that banana peel.
You don't know about the Dutch and banana peels, bro?
I'm sorry, man. I didn't. You weren't there to train me on the banana peel.
I'm about to wrap
code.
this interview up because this is.
Now, I love playing the Netherlands.
Yeah.
A lot of it is you're 2 weeks generally you're entrenched in this language barrier wherever you go to.
But they all speak English.
And you adjust to it, but then you get to the Netherlands, and a guy comes up to the table and he's like, "Hey, man, you got this fucking shirt in XL? It's so sick!" Like,
and he just
no, and I'm just like, "Where the fuck am I?" Even you, like, we didn't really know each other. I'm watching PWG. I think I'm there live. I see this guy coming into Trapped Under Ice, and I'm like, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
Yeah.
This is sick. And then we have a conversation, and I hear your voice for the first time. I'm like, "Is this motherfucker from Florida or something? Yeah. Where is this accent coming from?" I couldn't believe it. It's insane. Is it taught in primary school in the Netherlands? English?
Yes. Yeah. So wow. I used to be able to speak 4 languages, but my French isn't that great anymore. But German, English, and Dutch.
Damn, Americans are so stupid. It's crazy.
Ich habe Deutsch gelernt.
Fuck off.
Du hast das gelernt? Ja, jawohl.
When did you learn German?
I took it for 4 years of high school. My grandfather is from Munich, and it was just kind of like, oh, that'll be an easy.
That's funny because I've always heard that there's 2 options in like the United States school systems. You can learn Spanish or German, or like
French.
Are there more? Are there
sometimes French?
Okay. Well, yeah. With us, it's like you get the bare bones, and I always say you're taught to at least like be able to save yourself if you're in a sticky situation or you're lost. But then you can obviously, you can take a module and like, learn more advanced like languages and stuff. But yeah, that's in the school system, stuff like that is like just, on a base level is being taught.
That's awesome. Pardon this interruption. Hello, welcome. It's Manscaped time because today's episode of Hardlore is brought to you by Manscaped. Bo, tell them what they got.
Let me tell you what we got, Mr. Brother. We got the Lawnmower 4.0. Listen to that.
The Crop Reviver Ball Refresher. You're a little stanky. You don't feel like showering and doing the whole thing. You slap this on for the gym or something.
And
you're
it's a
good
delight.
To go. Smells incredible in here. We got the Lawnmower 4.0, man. I shaved my chest last night for shits and gigs, just for fun, straight
just
up.
To do it?
Just to see if it worked. The light in
is
like
awesome.
The shower and stuff makes it really,
yeah. It's
really
like a
nice
hideous, it makes me feel like, oh no, but then you trim and you're like, oh yes.
You're like, you know what? I should do this more often.
You know what else we got, Colin?
What?
Hold on. The Manscaped undies, your favorite that I've really come around to.
How did you do that?
Anything is possible with Manscaped.
Code Hardlore, 20% off, free shipping. They got new stuff. They got so much stuff.
They got so much stuff. We don't have it yet, but they got new stuff coming, and we're going to show you.
They got a beard trimmer coming. If it's got that light on it, I'm going to moan next time we do an ad. Today's episode is also sponsored by Whatnot, the best new place to buy and sell your cool stuff. You get these marquee names on there. You got Brody King. You got Danhausen on there. You got All Ego Ethan Page on there.
Explain, as you just did for me, exactly what it is.
I would say Whatnot is like eBay meets Cameo.
In that a Cameo, a person of note who has some stuff people might want, is selling their things.
For example, today, the day this episode airs, Brody King and I we'll be doing some stuff on Whatnot. So click the link below, sign up. At the end of this month, Bo and I are going to be doing the very first Hardlore Whatnot.
Whoa.
So we don't know what that entails yet, but you're going to get some good shit if it's from us. Use the link below, sign up. Whatnot is awesome. They're fans of the show. We only fuck with people that fuck with us and that represent us in some way that we think will work. So check out Whatnot. Buy some cool stuff. Enjoy the rest of this episode with MALAKAI BLACK. It's hard for me to believe now that the House of Black is over the 1 year mark.
Yeah.
When I feel like you guys are really just getting started.
Yes.
You're hitting your creatively. You're like the foundation is built.
Yes.
You've got this perfect unit.
Yeah. Yes.
Short-term and long-term goals for the House of Black. Where's your head at?
So I think that it would make most sense for us to chase the trios titles. I really think so. I think that is something that I can hear within the ranks of the fan base that is the AEW fan base. And I agree. I feel like it's time for us to do something that, turns more heads than just being the House of Black and give people, an extra reason to, bite down on what it is that we present to the world. There is a part of me that still wants to have a singles run in AEW as well, because I love single wrestling. There's a part of me that still wants to have a tag run with Brody, because I love tag wrestling too. So there's three, stages that I think organically make a lot of sense. And I mean, I guess they're not that surprising, when I say them out loud. I don't think anyone's going to go, oh, I never thought of that. No, he wants to be tag and trios and single career. Oh, I think everybody can kind of agree.
I think everybody wants all three of those things.
Yeah.
Too.
I think we're in a good position to argue that I think a lot of people want us to do that.
Yeah. I was at Forbidden Door. It's right up the street from where I live.
Right.
I was rooting for you for that belt. I thought for sure.
Yeah.
That was a fun match. That was it was a lot of fun. I think that was a really unique show as well. It was cool to be, part of kind of a historic style pay-per-view of a co-joined AEW New Japan show with some of the crazier names of the Japanese pro wrestling scene on the on the bill. It was very, very, very cool. Good atmosphere backstage.
It was a perfect show.
Dude, that was
and
a time
all
where
the cards were stacked against it. Yeah.
Like
that
was
the
a time
promotion
where
was difficult, time schedules, everything, and against all odds, it was fucking unbelievable.
Yep. Yeah.
I decided to go super last minute, so I had a group of friends who were all sitting together, and I got a single seat, on my own, just in the crowd, and I had
somewhere random, it was just you.
Everyone was just pumped, everybody was pumped, there was no. It was awesome. I had a really good time.
I think that is the strength of AEW, right? They do something so very unique, so very different, and they really cater to a fan base. And obviously, it helps that Tony himself is also, of course, a massive fan of wrestling, and he embodies what I think a lot of wrestling fans would want. You know what I mean? And I think for him being able to monetize that and present that to the masses, especially because it's always good when there's a call for multiple things, and him, fulfilling this this need for a other product than what the WWE is doing. I think is good, because I was always happy that there was a second promotion, because I even when it started, I was just really happy that my friends were now able to make a really good living for themselves, because people would know about us and all that stuff, but we knew about the other guys. We knew about the Young Bucks, the Kenny Omegas and stuff like that. And not that I think that those guys were not good off before, but they also deserve to be put on a platform that was bigger and had a more national and now worldly view within the realms of professional wrestling. But also even now guys like the Acclaimed,
homegrown.
MGF, Darby, guys who bring something unique to the table and do something that they do something that's needed and wanted in wrestling. They've been able to present that to the masses and being able to make a living off it. And I think that's great.
I have one more question about wrestling stuff,
Sure.
and then I think I'm good. Did you have, before you decided kind of, and you know what's funny about you too? I don't want to call your aesthetic a gimmick because it seems disrespectful, because you know what I mean? Because you like, it's almost Undertaker-esque where it's like, this guy is like studying this shit and living and blah, blah, blah.
Certainly.
Did you have a moment or a time when you were wrestling before your current aesthetic where it was like your big Scott Hall days where you were just like a guy?
No. No. So I think the first 7 years of my career were spent being wrong about everything. Nothing worked. I was either being I'm a baby face, or I'm a good guy, or I'm a bad guy. There was no nuancing. And I got this like horrendous injury. I had this little cut in the inner part of my thigh, and it got so infected that I nearly died. I'm a very stubborn individual. My wife will tell you. I don't go to hospitals. I don't go to doctors. I have to literally be on the brink of death before I go somewhere.
Oh, brother, medical technology is unbelievable now. You gotta go.
My brother is an anesthesiologist and an assistant surgeon. So
okay.
You know what I mean? The joke's always been that I put him in the hospital and he fixed it. So I nearly died. And then I kind of went like, all right, so I'm out of wrestling for at least 6 weeks to 3 months because it was that bad. I missed a lot of time. And it gave me kind of like time to go back to who I was, because I stopped doing Muay Thai and kickboxing when I transitioned to wrestling when I was 15 years old. But it also took away my conditioning. It took away my ability to be very creative because I was so hyper-focused on being a wrestler and just focusing on the wrestling. Sure, my style was that of like a striker and stuff like that, but it was different. It was clearly not what it was now. And it was actually in that exact same time frame, I was about 22 years old when that happened, where I just kind of went like, all right, what am I doing wrong? And I really started thinking about like, well, you're presenting everything that you are not. You're not using any of the things that, you grew up with. You're not using any of the things that make you who you are as a person. You like hardcore, you like black metal, you like the occult, you got some wild stories from like your childhood and stuff like that. You've been through some shit. Why not use these things? And it's the same time where I started going back to Muay Thai and kickboxing. Actually, I started going back to kickboxing, and it was right then where I was like, I know all this shit. Why am I not utilizing this? And then I started kind of, weaving in like, the what they call, I guess, the switching knee strike or the V trigger nowadays.
Yeah.
And the spinning heel kick. And I started using more like grappling suplexes and stuff like that. And more like clinch kind of sweeps and holds and stuff. And stuff from like my Panchak Shila days with like leg sweeps and body scissors. I started really kind of like carving out by looking at what at the time, because I was working for WXW. Predominantly, and I was really looking at their roster and going like, this person's doing this. All right, I'm gonna get rid of that move from my arsenal. This person, okay, that's not being used anymore. And that kind of made me. It really laid the blueprint of what I do nowadays, which is looking actively at a roster and then going, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. But also nowadays being in a position to go, hey guys, can you perhaps not do this? Because it's like luckily.
But you'll kind of starve yourself to force creativity.
Yes, yeah.
Take away options to.
I just wanted to come back feeling comfortable because I just kind of went like, man, I've been trying this for 7 years and I guess I've done decent, but not great. And it was really there where like the transition for me started happening, where I started implementing the battle jackets and the leather cuts, and like, I was starting to get tattooed more, and, using band shirts to come out, and just like really like, formulating myself, changing my music, definitely adopting a little bit more of like, where I come from, like with my group of friends, and then giving the hints of like the occult stuff in there, and using different symbolisms and using stuff in promos and making these little vignettes and that's kind of how it all grew. And then by the time it was about 2011, 12, I worked for this company called Insane Championship Wrestling, and the promoter, Mark Dallas, he was very much of like, you guys, I love what you guys are doing. We working for Big Japan at the time, me and Michael Donta, my tag partner, and we already kind of ran with the whole occult themed stuff, the Sumerian Death Squad at the time. And even that name is based off like, certain things. And it was right then and there where I started getting these ideas of like filming these little like movies that were like kind of like low budget horror movies as promos. And I presented the idea to Mark Dallas, and Mark was like in his like super flat, heavy Glaswegian Scottish accent saying, yeah, you guys do whatever the fuck you want, man. And then like we did it, and it came back, and the response was so good that we were like, yo, we're on to something. Mm-hmm. And it just progressed and progressed and progressed and progressed. And then like, so many of these, the whole Cradle of Filth thing came into play. Bands like Watain and stuff gave me like, aesthetically visuals, gave me a lot of like ideas, and then dissecting some of the lyrics and of like certain bands, and like, reading up about their backstories, and what was this band inspired by, and then like, going through all the crazy stories that you read, and then like letting it influence you, and then listen to music, seeing the music videos, and then going, I can use this, I can use that, and it just really organically. But again, it's almost like we circle back to the first part of the conversation. I had to like deconstruct and pull the fibers of all that apart, so I can kind of like take a needle and thread and kind of like sew them back in together, but I sewed them onto my own skin. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like how it all happened.
Wow.
You're everything you say can apply to music too.
100%.
Yeah. Like you deconstruct other art to make new art in a way that's completely unrelated to it. That's how I can turn a fucking Stevie Wonder song into a God Save song,
I believe it. I 100%, because if there's only like, even if there's like 1% that you can use, you're going to exploit the fuck out of that 1%. You're like, I'm going to let that inspire me until like,
even if it's just a match that that lights the bulb,
I know exactly what you're talking
about. What was your first entrance theme ever?
And this is a wild one because you wouldn't expect it from me, but I was also heavy into skateboarding. A lot of my friends were like, I was into like more like underground hip hop and stuff like that. So like Gangstar and stuff, Talib Kweli, Mos Def, Jurassic 5, etc. I used Simon Says' remix from Pharaoh Monk. That was the first song I ever came out with. And it was so random because you wouldn't think about that. And then like I used Biohazard.
Sick.
And I used
what Biohazard track? Do you remember?
The one with Onyx, New World Disorder, because
from the Judgment. Oh, okay.
Even then, because it's about conspiracies and stuff. So even then, it kind of like started like kind of implanting in my head, because that song is about like the whole world gone to shit because of the Illuminati and stuff. It's a cool song. Yeah. Right. Then I used Unreal, not Unreal. Jesus Christ, Unreal. That was what do I call it again? The song is called Zombie Autopilot. Why can't I come up with a band? On Earth. Jesus. Thank you.
On Earth. Of course.
On Earth. And then kind of like I've used Terror. I've used Trapped in Her Eyes, Cruel Hand. And then I used Agoraphobic, Nosebleed.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I love that band. Mm-hmm. and Brutality Will Prevail.
Of course.
You use them as an intro?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a remix version of some of the songs. Like there's actually a whole story about myself and Brutality Will Prevail in WWE. So I own the very last song made by Brutality Will Prevail, because that song was recorded as one of my never released WWE tracks.
Really? So that would be Louis then.
Was that?
Louis was the singer then? It wasn't AJ.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it was Louis. And it's funny because this is about 3 years ago, 2020, 2021-ish, when I like about like a couple months before I got released. I had a whole talk with Vince, and this is in the COVID era. And to make a very long story short, Vince was just like, we got to do something with you. And I was like, yeah, no shit. And I said, okay, I have this idea. I want to do this with this character, that with this character. And he loved it. It was like, yeah, that sounds great. You know, like I gave him the idea of almost this like James Bond type villain that has like an aesthetical, you know, difference, but it doesn't make him anything else other than like having an aesthetic that he can draw inspiration from. Right. I wanted a new theme song because he already took the entrance away. I don't know why, but he was just to the dismay of many fans and many staff members. He was like, he took the coffin away. He took the raise away, and no one ever
was furious.
No one ever, even I didn't get it. I was just like, but that made me. So what, whatever, you know, yeah. So he took that away, and we sat down for like, we had a 45-minute conversation. It was kind of unheard of because Vince usually like didn't talk like longer than people to 5 to 10 minutes, but he really took the time. We really sat down for a very long time, and Bruce Pritchard was in the room too. He was taking notes, and I said, give me X amount of time and let me do X, Y, Z. He sent me home, and I started talking to the guys from Brutality Will Prevail because I've known them for a while. I said, hey guys, can you jump on a Zoom call? And I explained it to them, and I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, sounds awesome. And I was really happy for them because I wanted them, same as that we want to get you involved with the House of Black stuff. I wanted them to get that recognition because, you know, I want everybody who I consider to be a talented individual to be seen. And if I can use my platform for that, great. You know, I'm a big believer in like, you go somewhere, you pull your friends and your loved ones with you. I'm a big believer in that.
It shows.
Yep.
And I wanted that for them. And I spoke to Neil, who's the Views music guy. He started talking with them. He paid for their studio time. They wrote the song. I wrote some of the lyrics, and, you know, we kind of go back and forth, and we get this really, really cool, heavy song. And I came back, and Vince is like, all right, let's hear it. So I sit there on my mobile phone, and I let Vince hear this like extremely loud fucking hardcore, black and hardcore song. And Vince goes, well, I mean, I don't know if that's music, but I'm 76 years old, so what the fuck do I know about this? But, you know, he was okay with it. But then I don't know where it kind of went iffy. I think they played that song once. I think it was against like the last time I had a match with Kevin Owens when we had that. I think it was my last match. Yeah, the one against Kevin Owens where I think they're famously doing the double knees onto the chairs came from. And we used it once. It didn't really get an intro. It was just like, it was there. We hadn't rehearsed anything. And they were just like, yeah, just get out there. And everybody was like, okay, but you're not going to debut any of that. We were just like, I think everybody was just very, very tired. It was a very strange, that COVID era taping was very, very strange, very, very depressing for a lot of people. And as also for Vince, because Vince's thing was always like, I can't get a live reaction to people, so I don't know what's going on. The ratings aren't telling me anything because either everybody's watching or no one's watching. So I don't know. I have no point of reference. And for Vince at the time, like, you know, having a loud crowd reaction is his gauging point as to see how people react. And you know, that's obvious. But you know, he didn't know. So we did the match with Kevin, and we sat down again. We talked. And he said, like, look, this is what I want you to do. Now that you lost against Kevin's, I'm going to take you away from TV for like the next 6 weeks. And you're going to come back at the Rumble, and we're going to reset you. And this was in November. The Rumble was obviously in January. And then the new year came, and nothing happened. And obviously, I didn't do anything until like April of 2021, I want to say. And then we started shooting the vignettes for The Dark Father. That was the big reset. And then obviously everybody knows what happened. But that was my story with Brutality Will Prevail. And that song is still in my possession. And I do want to release it with them because I feel I owe it to those boys because it's their art. I just need to figure out a good way of like, you know, doing it in a way that like, you know, it helps them because obviously, unfortunately, recently they decided to call it quits.
Yeah.
And, you know, I guess they're like doing separate things now, but I think it'd be cool at one point we can go, hey guys, remember we have the song, let's bring it out. And they actually asked me a while ago, but it just, you know, with this schedule, it was just, you know, another thing on top of all the other things that was going on. That we haven't been able to like, you know, figure that out. But I do believe that in the future we should do something like that. Absolutely.
That's awesome. I'm gonna ask Ash and Louie about that. I still keep up with
send
them.
the wave over, brother. I gotta hear it.
Yeah.
Sure.
You got some time to talk about food before we call it?
Sure.
What do you think? You got any more specific questions, Colin?
I guess just like I kind of want to get the same gauge on who's there in AEW that you're dying to work with, because obviously as your friend, I'm selfishly happy that you're still there, you know, because I get to see this beautiful flower grow with you and my man Brody, and MALAKAI BLACK gets to be who MALAKAI BLACK wants to be.
Sure.
And that's the thing that for me was like a relief, and you staying.
Sure.
Who you dying to kick in the head there?
So first thing to like pull back. I'm going to pull back a little bit on one of the things that you said. So you say MALAKAI BLACK can be who MALAKAI BLACK wants to be, and that is true to an extent. But I also want people to understand that there is still a cooperation between myself and, you know, the powers that be. So my ideas are not always, you know, processed the way that I would want them to be created. I want people to always understand that there is, you know, there's my ideas, there's Tony's input, and there's QT's input, and together we make, you know, happen what we want to happen. And I'm very happy with that. And it's definitely allowed me to be me more than I've ever been allowed to be myself, especially on the main roster for WWE.
Yeah.
NXT was a different story. NXT Hunter was very much like, yeah, no, do what you want to do. Like Aleister was 100% a thing between me and Hunter. Like I told him what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it, and what I wanted to present. And he said, like, I've got this idea for an entrance for you. This is what I want to do. I send him a ton of live DVDs from some of my favorite bands and music videos. And that's kind of how we came up with like the candles and the fire and like, you know, the black and red and stuff like that. But main roster, obviously a very different story. AEW lies a little bit between what I did with NXT and the main roster. It's a little bit more mixed, if that makes sense.
But there's no script being handed to you. It's more like...
No. And that part I'm very happy with, that I can say what I want to say and do what I do. But sometimes I have to convey a certain message in a certain way. But other than that, there's not like a lot of like barriers in regards to, you know, that. Who do I want to tangle with?
Yeah.
So, and this is like a really strange thing to say, perhaps, but I would really like to wrestle Brody in AEW. And the reason why is because best friends make better enemies. And I think that him and me can...
So true.
Oh, yeah. Him and me can kind of like bring something out of each other that is like animalistic. And we can pull back the curtain on a friendship level, actually move the curtain in front of our friendship level and just go, all right, we're going to fight, and we're going to fight, and not have any hatred towards each other. It's just, this is the business, right? Other than that, I would love to wrestle Chris Jericho, just because he's Chris Jericho. He's one of my all-time favorites. I have so much admiration for that dude. A guy who's been able to reinvent himself no matter what, the smallest thing, and he'll just make it into like the biggest neon sign that you'll ever see, and just utilize it. He is crazy. Like he is one of the masterminds of the modern day wrestling.
We talk about that damn near every week on here, that he's like objectively in the GOAT.
He's a top 4.
100%. And I don't care what people think or say. He is from a level of, as a wrestler looking at a wrestler. Thanks, Rip. As a wrestler looking at a wrestler, I think he is what a lot of people should take notes from, because even like wrestling wise, you know, he wrestles Bandito and he still pulls out like the craziest matches, and he's incredible. Especially us, you know, given his age, he's Jericho, man. Like I have nothing but love and respect for him.
I say it all the time, but I was at his WWF at the time debut.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was there. My mom took me for my birthday.
That is so cool, though. That is iconic. The big promo.
It's like my one, the Y2J countdown.
Oh my God, that is super special. Top Flight. Myself and Nate against Top Flight. I love those boys. Very, very unique.
As a human.
Yes, absolutely.
How are you doing that?
Yeah, that's also one of the reasons why I requested to work with Dante at the time, because I knew I could give him something that he hadn't had prior to that, and that was like someone slowing him down and forcing him to sell, but also showing him like some etiquette stuff, and he did absolutely great. A lot of potential in that kid. It's up to him what he does with it, and I said that in an interview at the time as well. I think he can be absolutely one of the better ones, but it comes down to what he does with it. You can only give someone a candle. They have to they have to strike the match and light it up, but you can't do that for the Bucks and Kenny. I think from a 6-man, like, even take away the belts, just that interaction in general, I think is a head turner, just because of who they are and who we are.
And the 6 of you together is just the world is fucking creaming.
And it's so black versus white, literally.
Yes.
The House of Black versus the elite, like golden,
It's it's the foundation of every story ever told.
Yeah. And objectively, as like a kind of a new Jack fan, I'm dying for that. That's what I want is that 6-man.
I think so too. I think I'd be like one of the more interesting ones, especially given the level of talent in that match. So Aussie Open and Will Ospreay, and I know they're New Japan, but they have been in AEW before. I have a little bit of a little brother dynamic with Will throughout the years, where I've had to correct him a couple times, in all good love and in all good faith in terms of that, because Will is a very talented young man. He's in great shape. He does things from a physical standpoint that are just like unreal.
Every time I see him wrestle, he does something I've never seen before.
Looks the part, is the parts, can talk, convincing. And Aussie Open, well, if you've seen our match against them at PWG, you know exactly why I would want to wrestle them on AEW, because those guys are so talented. Oh my God, are these guys good? Like some of the best wrestlers I've been in the ring with, those guys. And then FTR, just because I have so much love for them. I used to love watching wrestle them in WWE. Me and Ricochet at the time have had so many matches with them on live events, and it was just always a blast, always fun. Those guys are like through and through pros. Like they are
wrestlers.
100%.
Some say the ringworm of wrestlers.
There is just an overflowing extent of like talent in AEW. Like, I don't think there's anyone who I wouldn't want to wrestle. I mean, I think the answer, I think that list is shorter, because I don't think that list exists. But it's an incredibly cool melting pot of older guys from the indies that have been around for a very, very long time, to veterans from like the WWE being around for a very long time, with, younger generational wrestlers that you already can tell now are going to set the world on fire once they reach that level of like physical maturity. And once they really like, get it, they're going to do some very special things. I feel like it's up to myself and a few others to really, guide them as well, and make sure that they do the right things. And hey, that doesn't mean that I'm always right. It never means that I'm always right. I just know that I know what I do works, and I can help them translate that for them in their own world. And I'm always a big fan of trying everything. And even if it doesn't work for you, at least you have your answer, because if you know what doesn't work for you, you never have to go back to it again.
Well said. Wow.
You said you're on the hammer right now. You're getting real in shape.
Yeah. Well, especially like, we a couple months ago, me and my wife had a bit of a long talk, and there were a few things in my personal life that I was very unhappy about, and I had some physical problems medically that had to be dealt with. So around May, when everything was kind of cleared, I was like, all right, screw this. We're going to do it this way. And I went to AJ Sims, who is a world-renowned nutrition coach, and he started coaching me, and my physique went from being not happy with it to everybody kind of looking at me going like, what did you do? We're like, are you on the gear right now? Like, what's going on? I was like, like just making that change and really sticking through it, and just kind of going like, well, I'm 37 years old. I'm not going to get any younger. I don't need to build like 50 pounds of muscle anymore. But what I can do is get leaner, and what I can do is get into a different shape, and just, make a few minor changes, and, use some tricks, and let him coach you. And like, he's the same guy that does Tommaso. He does a bunch of bodybuilders. Elias, he does him too. And a couple of AEW.
Hell of a fucking.
That guy is a body guy. Oh my God, he's crazy. But yeah, so just making those changes and making those tweaks, and it makes me feel so much better. Like now, even like, because a lot of body dysmorphia happens in wrestling, and I'm not an exception to it. I think in this day and age, I think a lot of men in general have a lot of body dysmorphia through
the internet is just fucking poison,
and it's not real, right? And it's like,
real.
Yeah, because you're being fed so many things that are unrealistic.
Bodybuilding is an eating disorder.
Yes, no, it is.
Like being like, I need to eat 250 grams of protein today, or I'm going to kill myself. That's disordered eating. Yeah, well, so
and that's what it is. But one of the things that I really, really appreciate about AJ is that he makes sure that I have a really healthy relationship with food. But he will also tell me, this will work, this will not work, and he has so fine-tuned it for me as an athlete, as an individual. Like, no program he gives is ever the same. He'll have a base print, but off that base print, he will tell you, he will be like, hey, what has this done to you? Has it made you A, B, C, D, E? And if it has made you B, okay, then we're going to go here. He's just been able to cut it into fine pieces over the last 6-7 months. And I really feel like I've done something with my physique that I haven't done in a very, very long time.
You're shredded.
Thank you. It's just like, it took some hills to climb, because I've never really had a really healthy relationship with food in that regard. But I was also a dojo guy and never a lifter. I was a power lifter because there's something for me to gain in terms of strength. But I really didn't care that much about like aesthetical features until I started caring about aesthetical features. And then
said.
Yeah, and then I started like helping my wife as well, and then she started signing up with someone as well. Actually, his wife, and she is prone to just have more abs than most pro bodybuilders.
Some people,
it's crazy. She's IFBB ready.
Well, everybody keeps asking, "Are you?" When we go to gym, we're like, "Are you competing? Are you competing?" And it's just funny, because she's just like, she's so in shape right now, and like we just keep on going with it. And it was funny, because she was telling me a story as she stood backstage, and all of a sudden Triple H comes up to him and goes like, and starts like pushing down. And he's like, "Oh, I thought there were spray on. They're your actual abs." Because everybody's just like, man, she's like shredded nowadays. So yeah, she's doing really well. But I will also say, I don't think I might sound biased, but I don't think I see anyone train harder than my wife. Like, she
her time is coming.
I hope it is, because it's about time it's coming, and she just works so fucking hard. Like, a while ago we were doing Muay Thai, and because that's something that she picked up, because I always kept training, and she started joining. She really likes it now. To the point where I kind of go like, I think you've surpassed me in like conditioning for Muay Thai. I'll be doing a round of pads while she'll do like a combination, and then like 10 burpees and another combination. And I'm like she's doing that for 2 minutes, and I'm just like doing like regular pat work, and I'll be like, and she'll be like, "All right, let's go." And I'm like, Jesus Christ.
I will never forget reading that you guys got married in PW Insider. And hitting the chat and being like, "Yo, what the fuck, bro?"
Was that in PW Inside our marriage? Really? I
remember.
No,
and you texted the table, and you were like, yeah, sorry guys, and we were all just like, "Dude, congrats! What the fuck?"
No, the funny thing is, like me, I've been a pretty reclusive person my entire life, especially for my private. I don't think a lot of people know much about me, which I like. But when we got married, we were just like, let's just get married for us and not for the public. And literally 4 days after we got married, she had a meeting and at WWE, and like I think she was on. I don't know why I wasn't there, but I wasn't there. I don't know why that was. Oh wait, I was still. I think was I still in NXT? Okay, so I was still in NXT, and she was on the main roster, of course. And she's calling me. She's like, I can't name this person's name. And he's like, you know what just happened? I was like, no, what's going on? It's like, we've been trying so hard to keep this, that we got married to ourselves and all that stuff. And this person in a meeting just brings up, you and I got married. And everybody goes, what the fuck? Why'd you tell us? And he puts me on the spot. And I felt like, fuck all you guys. It's none of your business. so yeah.
The reason I ask about getting in, I'm obviously as you said, your relationship with food has changed. So you're eating good. You're being a good boy. And what I want to know is when Malakai's being a bad boy, what he likes to eat.
Oh my God.
That's what we're here for.
That's a great question.
I got a good piece of lore regarding that.
Oh yeah.
After one of the takeovers, the first thing you did was send us a picture of you eating Papa John's in your hotel bed.
Yep.
I think with the NXT Championship, possibly.
Yep. That's very correct. I remember that picture.
You're like, I think I'm having pizza tonight, boys. And 10 minutes later, it was like,
it's
Papa's here.
It's I'm a savory guy. Yeah. I think a lot of men are savory guy, if that makes sense. I do like my candies, but I love my ice cream. Right? If I go for something sweet, it has to be ice cream.
Come on.
So there is a place here where I live, and I can't say the name of it because I don't really want people to know exactly where I live.
Good point.
But it's a local. I will text you guys after this if you're ever in this part of Alaska, where I reside, of course. And they're a local pizzeria. They're a family-owned pizzeria, and the reason why we always went there is because my wife is vegan. And they do a vegan pizza that is better than certain quote unquote real pizzas.
Wow.
From the cheese to the tofu products / meats that are used and the sauces. Yes.
The pepperoni.
Insane. And
wow.
I like their I'm a regular cheese pizza guy. I do like sometimes, my barbecue chicken or my pineapple. I do put pineapple on my pizza, boys. I'm sorry. I do onions as well. Like I'm a big.
You said yourself you're not always
right.
I'm
at
it's
it.
fine. It's fine.
but in this case, I am right. Anyway,
you stick to the standard that if your cheese pizza sucks, you suck.
Yeah, that's the benchmark.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. I'm a big fan. I agree with that wholeheartedly. So a cheese pizza from this local place. And Cold Stone Creamery, and then either like their birthday cake one, or their peanut butter surprise, because I'm a big peanut butter person. Peanut butter and chocolate is something that like. And then my wife got me on. My wife hates. What's weird? My wife hates peanut butter and chocolate.
Really?
Like
I'm not a huge peanut butter guy either. You are or you aren't.
Like it's like, but she absolutely. Oh wow, she absolutely hates it. However, me, I love ice cream, man. I'm such a massive mark for ice cream, but also like a good, sometimes just classic McDonald's, man. It sounds so. You're
amongst Ronald's army right here. Okay,
Ronald's army.
You're preaching right where you need to be. All right.
It's I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't have to always get super complicated. Did Brody tell you about the sushi place that we went before Christmas?
No.
All right. So me, Brody, and Buddy, I think it was Texas. Was it Texas? I think it was Texas. Went to this sushi place. And I took him out because I was like, boys, it's been a crazy year. Let's wind down, let's sit down. Let's get a meal together, So we went to this one place that we found. It was the only place open, but it looked like a really nice, authentic looking Japanese sushi restaurant. I just go like, boys, just order whatever you want. It's carte blanche today. Just go for it. So we order for the table, and I shit you not,
said it.
I think the best sushi, and I've been to Japan and ate sushi. Mm-hmm. The best sushi that I've ever had in my life was served, and even Brody was like, "Yo, this is gonna cost you so much. This is way too good." And we're just
he's
like,
a snob.
Yes. Yeah, he's a massive food snob. But like I respect it.
Rightful. He's a rightful snob. He's rarely
he
wrong.
Knows his food. He knows his food. 100%. I definitely like sometimes when there's certain things happening, I'll ask his opinion as to what he thinks of the food before I go in, because he's a big food guy, and I respect it about him. So we sat down, we had the sushi, which was arguably some of the best sushi I've ever had in my life. It was like all chef sushi. It was nuts. And the bill wasn't even that high. So we were all kind of like shocked when the bill came in, because like me and Brody were like, this is a $1,200 bill. This is a $12 to $1,500.
Everybody ate good.
We were stuffed to the brim, but it came out like on nice plates. And there was so much attention to detail. There were like these little details on it and stuff like that. Stuff was like almost practically like, it was almost like calligraphy, like written on it and stuff like that. It was so nuts. It wasn't even 1/3 of that bill. And we were just like, that's it for the three of us? What is this place? And it's almost like, I feel like we stepped into like, you hear those stories about like alternate dimensions where people like talk about like, and then it went here and here and here. And they go like, that doesn't exist. What are you talking about? Like, no, I was just there.
At a mandala effect.
Exactly.
A glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah. It was like, I ate a glitch in the Matrix, and it was just, unreal. It was really almost like too good to be true, but it was.
Are you gonna gatekeep the name from your brothers here?
I generally do not remember what it's called.
I'll ask Brody.
Please, he'll remember. He'll remember. Yeah. He's gonna tell you probably. I was okay. Like,
yeah.
But at the time, he was nearly crying. So good it was. So don't let him fool you. Don't let that big bastard fool you.
All right.
My last question was, why is Brody such a bully and a terrible, terrible person? So we covered that.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know why. I just think it's imprinted in him. No.
I love you, Brody.
No.
Love you so much.
Well, we have a big brother, little brother dynamic where sometimes I'm the big brother and sometimes he's the big brother. He's had to pull me off the ledge quite a few times, and I've had to pull him off the ledge a few times. But it's all love, and I wouldn't want to trade it for anything because I love that dude, and I'm ready to take the world over with him and with Buddy. Because we haven't
Julia.
Yeah. We haven't covered Buddy. But he deserves a massive shout out because, and even if this is the only thing in regards to that, I think Buddy as a wrestler, the way he moves and sells and does and invents and how he just like is in general and how he looks physically, is one of the chef's kiss.
It's crazy that he's still underrated.
Yes,
he'll do the like ragdoll sell that I like love. I think it looks so good every time he does it.
And Wesley Blake are two of the best sellers that this modern era has. And I will put my hand in fire for that.
Wow. And you see his body, like seeing his body in person.
Yeah. Can I tell you something funny?
Please.
Body dysmorphia.
Oh, come on. Well, James is that way.
And the thing is like, and I hate that for him because I just really hope that he one day sees how incredibly good he looks.
He is a walking work of art.
Oh my God, it's crazy. He's
Gibraltar.
Like, we'll go to the gym every once in a while, and I'm perfectly capable of standing next to him and not feel some type of way because I know that dude is like 17 times more jacked than I'll ever be. But especially now with the way my diet's going, how I'm feeling, I feel pretty good standing next to him. I'm pretty proud of myself. But then we'll go to the locker room and I'll switch shirts or kind of take a breather and stuff like that, and he's standing there, and I'm like. I'm looking at him. I'm like, do you realize that you are literally you are like the 1% of the human race that it's like, I look I guess, okay. And I'm like, God damn it, buddy. You don't just look okay. You look like you're like two weeks away from missing.
Yo, he looks like an after picture.
Yes. Yes.
You could sell any product with his body. Before.
Remember when you would Google like Goku Super Saiyan 8?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And like, what would that look like?
Looks,
Shit.
He is you know, from a human being point of view, like he's an oddball, but he's, like I said, he's my little brother when it comes to that stuff. And I have a lot of love for him. And you know, he's one of those guys that's been on the road with me for like multiple years now. And he was also one of the guys where I was like, no, he has to come in because I can do something with him. I can create something with him. I can make him an addition to what it is that I'm thinking. And he is, you know, and it's like I hope that at some point he will get his due in a different way in regards to wrestling, where people are going to go, you know what? Let's put some steam behind Buddy and let him run rampant. Because if you even go back to his 205 Live stuff with Ali and stuff, like crazy, dude, just so innovative.
That's regarded as like the best part of that. In the history of 205 Live, it was like those two
dude,
carrying it.
Nuts. Just you know, like, and Ali is another guy, like heavily underrated. Looks like $1 million. He can talk. He can wrestle. He can do anything. He's just, again, another guy that I feel is walking around in an era where he should be doing so much more, but is not. And obviously, you know, that's just the nature of our business. Sometimes, you know, it is what it is. Not everybody can always be, you know, that's just what it is, you know. And I think he's accomplished a lot. I just know that there is so much left in him. And I just hope that, same with Buddy, that there's going to be a few moments in time where they can rekindle what they did on a stage that has a different viewership, or just in general, something that makes people remind everybody of like who and what they are, you know?
That'd be awesome.
Wow. I want to bring something back full circle. Last question I have about House of Black.
Sure.
One of the first things you said at the start of our talk was you would consider yourself the keeper.
Sure.
I'm curious because knowing you and how
that was a deliberate use of that word.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So even without explanations, I would just love to know if the other members have roles within the house.
Yes. Have you ever noticed how there's two things that I'll tell you. Have you noticed how whenever the match is about to start, all three of us stand to the side in the corner?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Right. That's all I'm going to say for now. Watch what happens every single time, right? Okay. And then there's another thing. If I sit cross-legged in the corner, there's always someone standing in front of me. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, I have.
All right. If you want to look at roles, just, I would say, let your imagination go its way.
Beautiful.
All right. Say no more. Buddy, if you're listening, I swear to God, I'll have that song soon. I swear to God. I gotta follow the Julia one.
We were talking about that. I was like, did Colin ever finish a song? And I'm asking Buddy, and the Buddy's like, I don't know. I'm like, yeah. It's not like you could ask.
Yeah. We talked about it briefly, but I feel the Julia one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a banger.
In fact, I gotta follow. I gotta make a better song.
Yeah.
So hopefully that one's on TV soon. Julia, you're doing great.
Yep.
Great job.
Absolutely.
Man, this was like, what a pleasant chat this was.
It was a fun little conversation.
Yeah. Thank you so much for so much of your time.
No worries.
Really.
No worries. Absolutely.
The Trios Championships are not safe. The House of Black is coming.
You're damn right they're coming.
And they're going to come hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, amongst, you know, I got to take a little walk first before I get that quick. But, I'm old nowadays, so
you're in the best shape of your life.
That's true.
This was just magical. We hope that if you are joining us from Wrestling World, you enjoyed this chat. If you're joining us from Hardcore World, you got a unique perspective
and why we like wrestling.
Yes,
the way that we do.
One of us is there, right, with our boy Brody on TV every week. watch AEW.
Yep.
Watch Thea and WWE. The extended family. We're all around.
It's all the same thing.
That's right.
It's all the same umbrella. It's all the same world, really.
Exactly. Well
Literally.
said. Thank you so much. Lovely.
Absolutely, boys.
All right. Adios. Bye.